Stay on.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the College Football Cut. I am your host, Adam Mack, joined side along my great co-host, Mr. Jerred Terrell, who's down below this time. Jerred, how you doing today, man?
Better now, just as always, man. It's good to be back.
I know. We took last week off. Last week wasn't live, and we didn't really, publicize last week's show because I said on air that James Franklin was going to get fired, and then decided to sign a 10-year contract. So I thought there's no one better to just talk about Penn State football than the number one Penn State football fan I know. Do you have any idea who that could be?
I think that's me.
It's not you, Johnny. It's somebody else. Ladies and gentlemen, from All About the Birds and the AATS Sports Network, the number one Penn State football fan I know, and I'm not sure if he loves them, hates them, but we're going to find out later tonight. Mr. Johnny U. Johnny, how you doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again. I do appreciate you guys having me on, talk some college football. A lot to talk about. So
I know we actually have like a lot of stuff to talk about, which is weird because we haven't had many shows like that. It's usually been the same people win every week, but this week we actually have something to talk about. So I'm excited. We have a lot to talk about. Obviously, we'll get into the big topics of the week, which is conference championship week, which that alone is multiple hours worth of content right there. But there's a bigger. Got to get the banner up first. Let's see if I can get this. All right. The coaching carousel, gentlemen.
Whew.
What the fuck happened?
A lot since last week, man.
I think that's not the biggest news, but for this show, it's the biggest news since we have a Notre Dame fan, which didn't think they actually real fans didn't actually existed. So, Jerred, good to see that you're alive. But Brian Kelly going to LSU. I know I was the first one to break the news to you, which was not ready for. But first thoughts of Brian Kelly going to LSU.
It was a surprise, right? Because he's been at Notre Dame for 12 years. He's had the longest tenure as a head coach at Notre Dame than anybody, if I'm not mistaken. And it was just really surprising because I for one didn't see him as a fit, and then two, just didn't imagine him leaving. But the more and more that I've thought about it, and then the more that the situation's developed, I think I'm all right with it. I think I've come to terms with it.
Johnny, what do you think about this?
it was surprising seeing that. But honestly, I think it may be better.
Jerred, I updated it for you down below.
Yeah, it's just
yeah. There you go.
The thing for Notre Dame is I just feel like it's better for them. They're going to get now. I think they're going to have a coach in there, and I did see something that I know everything talk about Freeman as being possibly the next head coach. Yeah. And apparently there's, he's in talks with trying to lure Brian Hartline, also from Ohio State, which he's a hell of a coach and a hell of a recruiter as well. So, Tommy Rees says he's staying. So there's a lot of things happening in Notre Dame, but I feel like it's so much better for them without Brian Kelly. Honestly, I know some people may not think that, but LSU, yeah, it's SEC. The top talent down there. I think his teams will be pretty good down there. But I think this may be I would say it may be good for Notre Dame, and a lot of people may not think that because you have a coach who's been there. Has the team wins wherever Brian Kelly goes. The teams win, but I just think that never could get Notre Dame over that hump. They always fell flat. And I just think this is something that may be good for them.
Yeah, I think the one thing about Notre Dame, and this is always the argument every year, is they don't play anybody. They never. I'm sorry, Jerred. I know I'm bad mouthing your team, but they never play anybody. And every year when they're in the playoffs and they're always a relevant team, when they finally play somebody good, they get slapped in the semifinals of the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing about Brian Kelly. I have no doubt in my mind he's influencing the athletic department. Like, hey, I want to play this, and that team. I don't want to play, this team that's going to probably beat me. And now he's going to go to LSU, where sucks. Your majority of your schedule is going to be handpicked for you. Specifically, your home and away is also going to be picked for you. So you're not going to pick if you can go to play, at Florida or at Alabama. It's going to be picked for you. So that big thing is for him right there is I've been saying all year Brian Kelly was on the hot seat at Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame, when they found out he took the job, said, oh, damn, we just lost, probably the best coach we've had in program history. But it's also like we just lost Brian Kelly, and I think that's a good step forward for the program right now for them. And, he's been a great coach. He's brought in great talent, but truthfully, they have a standard, and they've not lived up to that standard. They've not made it to the college football national championship game. And I think right now for Brian Kelly, he's thinking, oh, the SEC, that's the best of the best. It's a different ball game down there for him, and I don't think he's ready for it. I think it takes a special coach to succeed in the SEC, and sorry, he's not that special coach to take that for the SEC.
But you have to.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because you mentioned him leaving. Maybe it's just kind of a big sigh of relief because they didn't have to fire him, right? Like when they got rid of Charlie Weiss, the previous coach before Brian Kelly, they had to keep paying him after they fired him, right? So that's maybe it's just a big monkey off their back, ready to move on. Marcus Freeman, he's kind of a new demographic for Notre Dame coaches. He's only 35 years old, which I think a lot of players will probably respond pretty well to that, him being a younger coach. And he just kind of like Brian Kelly, coincidentally, he's got ties back to Cincinnati. He helped recruit that undefeated 2020 Cincinnati team. So you can probably count on him to get some good recruits in there too.
Yeah, Johnny, what do you think about? I know, again, the earlier thoughts, even before they announced, like the rumors got heavy, there was Marcus Freeman was taking that job, and I know not just you, Jerred, but other Notre Dame fans I know were like, yes, like get him before Brian Kelly can poach him to LSU,
right?
Which is smart if I'm Brian Kelly, but I think he is Marcus Freeman. I think he's a year or two away from being a head coach. But if I'm Notre Dame, I'm taking the opportunity right now. What do you guys think of Marcus Freeman being? I don't think he's officially been named, but I think he's according to the media, and the media is never wrong, according to some people, that he's going to be the next head coach at Notre Dame.
Like I said, I think it'd be a great hire. I think he's a good up and coming, like you said, he's an up and coming, young coach. But again, it really all depends on who you put around you, what kind of basically recruiters and or coaches you're going to surround yourself with to make yourself better. Yes, head coaches are very crucial and very important, but if you can surround yourself, especially in the college football game, you can surround yourselves with very talented, coordinators and skillful recruiters. That's going to bode well for you. Just take a look. I know Alabama. I know Nick Saban is top-notch coach, but look at the type of coordinators he brings in, and you take a look at their success. Yes, a lot of it has to do with Nick Saban, but again, he always brings in some of the top-flight, top-notch coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
100%. And I'm still shocked that Bill O'Brien didn't get a job. Unless he was waiting for the NFL to come calling, but I'm very shocked that Bill O'Brien didn't his phone wasn't ringing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one guy that I was making a list of guys that are still available, And I honestly forgot about him, but I'm glad you brought him up because that's a good point. Because he's definitely very eligible for some of these positions that are still open. But a guy knows where he wants to be, and maybe he wants to go back to the league. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think maybe teams are eerie of him since his last year in Houston was just as big of a disaster as you could imagine for an NFL coach. Maybe teams are eerie. Maybe he doesn't even want to get back into it. But to say he's not qualified as a college coach, we've all seen what he did at Penn State, taking an impossible task and making it into a top tier program. So it's not like he's not qualified. But let's get into honestly the coaching story that I didn't see coming. There's been rumors that this dude was going to the NFL. There's rumors that this guy was going to take the Alabama job whenever Nick Saban decided to retire. But Lincoln Riley going to USC, honestly, I still don't believe it. And even seeing him in the USC sweatshirt, I don't want to believe it. Is he going to bring them back to the glory of college football, or is this just another coach coming through the USC pipelines?
Well, if he starts snagging Oklahoma's recruits and starts snagging some, grad transfers and,
Spencer Rattler.
Well, I'm just saying, if he can load up and do kind of, get some talent there and to be able to kind of bring them somewhat back to prominence, the Pac-12 really, to me, who really scares you out there? If you go Lincoln Riley is going there to coach USC. Yes, there are some good teams in the Pac-12. Don't get me wrong. There are some talented teams. But, this is set up for him. The type of players he can bring in, the type of offense that he can run, it sets up really well for him in USC to bring them back to, college football prominence.
Yeah, I think so too. You look at just what he's done recently in Oklahoma. I think that's definitely transferable to Southern California. Just with the type of coach he is, the plays he calls, recruits he brings in. I agree. I think it'll fit in pretty well down there. And yeah, it being in the Pac-12, the way USC football should be, they should be running away with the Pac-12 every year. So I think it's a good conference to play in. He's got a hill to climb, but I think he can do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the talent he's brought in at Oklahoma and looking at the talent that has also just now left Oklahoma, and I'm sure he's been on the phone with them, maybe minus that quarterback position at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm some of these players and I'm not too butthurt over him leaving, especially that one guy that made a comment, he goes, oh, that Lincoln Riley said they're going to make us into the top tier program, and one of his old players said, oh, he told us that last week. Maybe not him, but some of these other guys that understand that it's a business. There's no competition out in the Pac-12. Like Oregon is hit or miss, Utah is hit or miss, UCLA is Chip Kelly. There's no consistent threat out in the Pac-12 right now. So
yeah,
if he can bring in not even top tier recruiting classes, just below a top tier, he can run the table in the Pac-12 year in and year out. We already know what kind of coach he is. We know he can bring in the talent. We know he can develop the quarterback position. We know he can develop the wide receivers. He has no competition out in the Pac-12. So if I'm him, if I can bring in a medium recruiting class, I can go the yard with him. I remember when the USC job first opened, everyone's like, James Franklin's taking this job. He's such a good recruiter. He's going to recruit so well out west. Lincoln Riley runs laps around James Franklin as a recruiter. I know Johnny can agree to that. We argue about it every other day.
The thing is, Lincoln Riley can recruit, but also they get a lot out of the talent. And that's the one thing that, James Franklin can recruit. He can recruit with the best of them. It shows in the type of players they're bringing. Just take a look. In the NFL right now, are the two rookies who have the most pressures is Owa and Micah Parsons, both Penn Staters. So he recruits talent. There's always a ton of talent on the teams. It's just getting the right assistants and other pieces around him to be able to help basically fulfill the coaching roles of everybody. And that's
Johnny, before you continue, because I know I could sense right now. I know you well enough that you want to just go off. Penn State, how is Johnny feeling?
I know early in the season, early in the season, I was, up and down, up and down, up and down. And you know what? Right now, I'm the way I'm feeling about it is I'm okay with it, because look at the Lincoln Riley situation. He leaves, and then these recruits start decommitting, and you got these players who are starting leaving. So for me, I'm okay with it, because I like what he's building. I like the recruits that are coming in. He has, Drew Aller coming in, Nick Singleton. He's got some players coming in. So I'm okay with it. Let's see. The big thing is who's going to be the defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. That's going to be huge, because I know there's some names being talked around. One guy that I would love to see is Elijah Robinson, the Texas A&M defensive line coach, former Penn Stater. He's really close to Matt Rule. He's really close with Sean Spencer and all those guys. Maybe Spencer could be a DC candidate as well. The Giants, one of the Giants coaches. But if I had the choice, it would be Elijah Robinson, because the talent that he could bring in and the amount of 5 stars you'd be able to get, the defensive lineman, and the type of talent. He's such a great recruiter. I know a lot of people say he's not a defensive coordinator. He's never been a defensive coordinator. But for me, I would take that risk, because there's so much in it because of who else they have on the staff. Poindexter used to be a DC, so, there's other, people with that, but that's what I would like to see. Penn State, they struggled. I understand that. You could see it on the field. You saw a lot of it. They struggled this year. And next year, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens, see what they do, because they need to be able to get a few guys out of the portal, be able to get some more, these coaches to be able to develop some of this talent, some of these young guys. So for me, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the James Franklin stuff. I'm fine with it.
3 weeks ago, you weren't.
No, I wasn't. But again,
3 weeks ago, Matt Rule to Penn State, I like it.
Well, I would do that. Don't get me wrong. I like that rule. But as you sit back,
text messages, bring them up live on air.
But as you sit back and you observe and you evaluate everything, my thing is, do you want to lose all these top recruits? And then, yes, you're going to be getting a talent. Who would you be getting? That's the thing, because there were jobs open, the LSU, Florida, all these top jobs, now Notre Dame's open, all these jobs that are open. How enticing is Penn State? I know it may be enticing because it's Penn State. It's still a top program. But again, James Franklin's there. He's building something. Let's see.
My one big thing is, if I'm an up-and-coming, top-tier coach, the idea of coaching under James Franklin is very appealing. Look at the amount of coaches that have gone on to head coaching jobs that have worked under him. You have Joe Moorhead, who's at Mississippi State, who is now at Akron. I think it's officially been announced this morning or this afternoon. I know he's the leading candidate there. You have obviously Brent Pry now at Virginia Tech. Charles Huff is at Marshall. Ricky Ron is at Old Dominion. If I'm trying to progress as a coach, and I'm a very up-and-coming coach, he's one of those guys. James Franklin's one of those guys that I want to go coach with. Just look at all of his assistants. The best years for Penn State football was 2016, 2017. You had one of the best offensive minds in football in Joe Moorhead leading the offense. And then you have Brent Pry, who's obviously, we've seen what he's done with the defense at Penn State. I'm an up-and-coming coach, especially the defensive line coach at Texas. I want a head coaching job. James Franklin's one of those bosses that has a very impressive coaching tree. Kind of like Nick Saban. If I want to be a head coach, and Nick Saban says, hey, be my offensive coordinator for a year, I'm going to probably jump ship and go talk to Nicky Saban down there in good old Tuscaloosa.
Exactly. And the other thing that's pretty funny, do you know who was a graduate assistant in 2015 and 2016 for Penn State?
Joseph Brady.
Exactly. He has a heck of a tree. He's able to get those guys over and get them head coaching jobs somewhere else, and that's huge. And hopefully that is enticing, because there are some pretty big names that are starting to be talked about with the defensive coordinator position, which I do expect it to be announced early next week.
Hopefully. I mean, the last time they replaced a major coordinator position with somebody that was super big, and Carousel, whatever his name was, that was a disaster. Not just going to throw that one out there.
It was a big time disaster. It was. I agree with you that.
Jerred, you have no nothing in this fight. Like, you could care less about if Penn State goes undefeated or winless. If you're looking at it from our point, what do you think of what's Penn State's move? Are they going to go after somebody that up and coming, or are you going to go after somebody that's like trying to revive their career? Because there's been a lot of defensive coaches that were head coaches that now lost their jobs. There's the opportunity. Could Penn State go down that path probably the next week or two?
That's a good question, but I lean more towards the young up and coming guy. I really like Johnny's thought of bringing in that D lineman. He's a D line coach at Texas now, right? What was his name again?
Texas A&M, Elijah Robinson.
Yeah. I like that idea, because I think younger coaches, they still got a little fire under their feet, willing to learn, willing to progress. If you bring in a guy that's trying to revive his career, how guys can be, how coaches can be. You're fighting for leadership. You're fighting to have your way. Whereas if you're a head coach, you can bring in the up and comer, and you can still be teaching him, and you can mold him to be the coach that you need him to be. So I kind of lean more towards that route.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where they do. Like, it seems like Penn State's losing a major coordinator every other year, which obviously says good things. It's not like minus last year. It's always been like the coordinator's gone off to a head coaching job, which says a lot about the program. I'm excited to see because Brent Pry has been there from the beginning, I believe, for James Franklin, I think maybe he wasn't. I think it was either Herb Hand or one of the other idiots that left for a bigger job and then got fired very quickly. But I'm excited to see. But obviously the big two hires were Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly. But there's been, I think, one of you two I was talking to today saying there's been a lot more coaching hires, it feels like, than normal for a year. I was like, there might be like 3 or 4 jobs, like major jobs that have been open. It seems like there's a solid conference and a half worth of schools. So who's been the best under the radar hire for you guys? And why is your answer Joe Moorhead or Brent Pry?
That's not going to be my answer. I'll let Jerred go first. He can go.
Under the radar? I guess that depends on your definition of under the radar.
Anything. That's Brian Kelly or Lincoln Riley. Go with it.
Yeah. Man, I'm going to go with this one. I feel like I might steal Johnny's because we were chit-chatting a little bit. So thanks for letting me go first, Johnny. And I'm sorry if I am stealing from you. But TCU picking up Sonny Dykes from SMU. That it's a bigger hire because it is a Big 12 school, but I think bringing him up from SMU, it's not getting as much publicity, obviously, because it's flying under the radar with the Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley news. But I think that's going to be a really nice transition for TCU.
Yeah, that was one I was thinking about, but the one I was going was the other one I talked to you about is Louisiana Tech, Sonny Cumbie, the Texas Tech offensive coordinator. I like that.
See you say.
An up-and-coming young coach, getting some exposure to Louisiana Tech. It is a pretty good, area there to recruit as well. And, the good running gun, quarterback, former quarterback himself. For me, I think that's an under-the-radar hire. Someone that you don't really think about, but he's getting his shot at Louisiana Tech, and, it could work for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing about I saw the La Tech hire, and I was very happy that Marshall's leaving Conference USA in a year or two because I was fully expecting Sonny Cumbie to get the job at Texas Tech before what's his name even got it, whatever his name is, the high school coach. Like, I was fully expecting him to get it. So to bring him a guy like that who's taken a Power 5 school in a pretty terrible situation that he's, joining mid-season, taking over the head coach, and kept them afloat in a pretty tough conference this year says a lot. And now to add him into a pretty bad conference, in all honesty, to see what Conference USA is going to be in a few years with everybody leaving for the American and some people leaving for the Sun Belt. La Tech's sitting right there very nice and cozy in Conference USA. And I saw firsthand who Conference USA is retaining and who they're adding. He's going to be able to run the tables with them. But, we mentioned earlier, but Brent Pryde of Virginia Tech, man. I've been saying all year Brent Pryde was on his way to getting a head coaching job. And he's one of the best defensive minds in football, and Virginia Tech got it, especially in a conference that seems like Clemson's going to make a big decline.
Yep.
I think, he's a top-tier hire for me. I absolutely love it. I think he was going to get a job somewhere, and bravo to Virginia Tech for getting it. Mostly because, Charles Huff was supposed to be the favorite to get that job, and he's sitting cozy now still in Huntington, West Virginia. So we get that. But I love the hire for Brent Pryde. He's a good recruiter. He's worked well in Virginia already. So I think Virginia Tech a couple of years can help run the table in the ACC.
But maybe Charles Huff has the Virginia job on his eyes now.
How do I throw you out of this so much better? That is I'm not back on temporary terms.
What about Temple? Rod Carey finally is gone.
Good.
Yes, exactly. Good. He's finally gone. What about this? I have a little somebody on my mind. What would you think about Dan Mullen?
Bitch, that's what I literally tweeted the other day, and I know I talked to you about this.
That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I know you want to talk about it.
Okay, be fair. So when they hired,
look at him. He really wants to talk about it. See, look at that. I just helped. I bring it up for you.
Listen, listen. When they hired Rod Carey, he was like, "Shit, we had no other option because Manny Diaz pulls out after 2 weeks of being the head coach." Dick, I was really can't wait for the day that when he gets fired.
Maybe it's this week.
Honestly, when he gets fired, you thought the Eagles parade on Broad Street was crazy. Imagine the parade on Broad Street when Manny Diaz gets fired.
Yeah.
But listen, Temple, historically has brought in a lot of great coaches. Even though he just got fired, Steve Avedizio he went on to Boston College and Colorado State. Matt Rule is obviously in the NFL right now. Al Golden, even though he got fired, went on to a Power 5 school. Jeff Collins went on to a Power 5 school. Temple has historically in the last decade brought in very good coaches. And they've always, every time, brought an up-and-coming coach. But they've never gone off of a coach trying to rebuild his career. Dan Mullen, the fact that he doesn't have a head coaching job says something. That he's not going to get one of these big-tier programs like Notre Dame or Oklahoma. A school like Temple consistently brings in good talent. It's not like he doesn't know the area. He's from the area. He can go to Temple, bring in great talent. It's not like Rod Carey's biggest downfall is he didn't look in his backyard for talent.
No. Well, he didn't connect with them, though, either. That's the other issue.
Every single person left.
Yeah. And that's bad. Another name, and I mentioned him earlier, that I could see a young guy, trying to make a name, like a Sonny Cumbie going to Louisiana Tech, would be a Brian Hartline. He's a receivers coach at, his alma mater, Ohio State. Maybe going a little bit down there to Philadelphia, to Temple, and, being able to recruit, being able to, snag some guys and to be able to familiarize themselves with the area that they are in. Because Temple they can get talent. There's talent there. And the thing is, with the transfer portal now, it's big. It's huge to be able to acquire some talent. Look what Mel Tucker did with Michigan State. So
They took a Temple guy, Anthony Russo, took him right out of Temple's backyard.
well, look at Penn State. They got Arnold Ebiketie. So they were able to get somebody out of Temple's, a transfer there. So there's things that they can do to make that program a lot better. Because it's hard to watch them struggle. Rod Carey just was not a fit, and see him gone is a good thing for them. Maybe be able to bring some, winning football to the Link, since that's where they play their home games.
It's not the Eagles.
Yeah, well,
Temple's got a new AD too.
Yeah.
And
From
he's got ties to Texas. So yeah,
Interesting.
Coach Stark, calling her right now. Texas fires him tomorrow. He's at Temple within a day or two.
yeah.
One thing like a Temple job, like with Dan Mullen, the reason like I gravitated towards him is he is a top tier coach in my opinion in college football. However, he was not the right fit for the SEC, which we keep going back to is not the right fit. Like it takes a special person, and he went to the SEC championship game. He brought in some great talent. He coached Kyle Pitts, yada yada. But like they didn't go where Florida football should be. And they hired him to bring back like those Urban Meyer days. And obviously, I'm not saying Urban Meyer is gonna come back to college because it's in like 2 or 3 years from now when he decides to retire again. But you look at like a guy like Gus Malzahn who won a national title at Auburn.
Yep.
Struggle because it's the SEC. It's the best of the best. I think he's going to have a Power 5 job in 2 or 3 years when he takes UCF to back to where UCF football is. Dan Mullen can do that at Temple.
Exactly.
It's not like he doesn't have a bad demographic to coach in. Like it's Philadelphia. It's a major city in football or in the country. And then he also has a football program that historically has brought in good talent and good coaches. So if I'm whatever the new AD is, whatever the hell his name is, I'm calling Danny Mullen's name. Like, hey, we'll give you what you want. Please come.
Just like that.
Yeah, but he's like, please come here.
Maybe we'll go to Colorado State.
Listen, that job's open too.
Hey, yeah.
I guess the one last thing we'll touch on the coaching carousel, since it seems like it's the only like big topic, is we now have another major program that is on the market. Obviously, Notre Dame technically still is, but we all think it's going to go to Marcus Freeman. But who's going to take that Oklahoma job? Because it's not like it's like a small and top tier program. It is like I'm just speaking out of my ass at this point. As top of it gets, in my opinion, for right now. So who's going to get that impossible job and get fired in 3 or 4 years when they can't live up to Oklahoma standards?
I'm going to say Brent Venables, DC at Clemson.
It was announced that he's already backed out of it.
Oh. Backed out of it.
Another thing, I saw that they have a favorite. Oklahoma has a favorite and has been in contacts with somebody, and they said, who is playing in a conference championship game, which means someone who is coaching in a conference championship game.
Luke Fickell.
That is not who I was going for, but close. It's only a few hours away, next state over. But what about our, Johnny and I, our Pittsburgh friends, Pat Narizzi, the head coach at Pitt.
Interesting.
That's really Twitter's never wrong.
Yeah. Some
Rarely.
people think they're never wrong. But I just don't think they had a good year. They always bring they have some talent. Like it's not like they don't have blue chippers all over the place. He's a good coach, but I don't really know if that's be a good hire down there.
Jerred, right now, who do you got?
Man, so I bet Oklahoma's going to shit in their pants right now.
Good sign.
What's that?
When you go, man, it usually means I threw you for a loop.
Well, you did. And because I thought about this before, though, because Oklahoma's got to be kind of shitting their pants right now because a lot of the good available coaches they've already ended up somewhere, right? There was so many hires that happened already that the market really thinned out, and now they're the big fish in a little pond right now, and they don't have anybody that they might want to fill that position. At least not somebody that they're going to pick up very easily. But I mean, a program like Oklahoma, I think they're gonna end up getting a head coach from a different school. I don't know if they'll promote within or hire a coordinator. I don't think. But who knows? Maybe Bill O'Brien fits the bill. I don't know.
Ooh, Bill O'Brien's finally getting his job.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. I don't know. It's whoever gets the job is they sucks for them because they're in a really impossible scenario at Oklahoma. So
Yeah.
God bless Godspeed for them because it's gonna.
Yeah.
But let's get into the actual football of our show because that's all that people really care about. Not the coaching carousel, even though that's all they care about. It's conference championship week, boys. How we feel?
It is.
A lot of good games, a lot of fun. And the thing is, some games go certain ways. It could throw absolute chaos for the college football playoff, which I want to see.
Great podcast.
Exactly, and I want to see that.
All right.
I'd love to see a couple upsets.
Let's start with one game that currently neither team is in playoff conversation, even though a win and a couple other losses could move them into the top 4. Big 12. OK State versus Matt Rule's old team, the Baylor Bears. Who y'all got in this one?
I really like that Oklahoma State defense, and I think in a game like this, defense is going to prevail. So I'm leaning towards Oklahoma State right now. Now, we might need to see a huge performance from Spencer Sanders, quarterback for Oklahoma State, and he's got some dual threat capabilities, and we've seen Baylor handle that against Caleb Williams when they beat Oklahoma. So I think this game is going to hit the under. Just because of the solid defense, especially coming from Oklahoma State's side. But I think Oklahoma State's going to go ahead and get this one.
Yeah, Oklahoma State had a big win against Oklahoma. I just don't know. But Baylor, just to me, they seem to rise to the occasion, and I just feel that Baylor's going to be because Oklahoma State coming off a big win like that, a really emotional win. Sometimes you can have a letdown the next week. And I feel like that may be in store for Oklahoma State this weekend. I'm going to pick Baylor on this one.
Yeah, that's a good point because we saw that happen with Michigan State and with Iowa.
Yeah,
that happened to both of them. They had big wins, got a nice ranking, and then they both fell off the next week.
Yeah, it's kind of how I'm feeling with Oklahoma State. Like they seem on paper and what we've seen all season like a very good team. Like the defense, and Mike Grundy's always been good, known for having very good defensive teams, and this is one of the better teams he's had on defense. However, that firepower, that spark of being a playoff team, I just don't see there for Oklahoma State, and I think they're kind of sitting back like, oh, we can make an argument that we should jump Cincinnati because we're a Power 5 school, but we've seen it all year, teams getting good rankings and then just shitting the bed. Michigan State, Iowa, you're forgetting about another one. Ohio State. You're forgetting what they did a couple weeks ago against not a couple weeks ago, literally last week against Michigan. They're on their way to the college football playoff. They just don't show up. Like not even that they don't play well. They just didn't show up. So I don't think Oklahoma State's just not going to show up. But I think Baylor is just an overall good team, and I think they can make the argument that they can beat Oklahoma State. Now, if Baylor wins, I don't personally think they're going to jump all the way into the college football playoff, which is just going to help Notre Dame and I guess Marcus Freeman get a free ticket into the playoffs, as every other year seems to be. Sorry, Jerred, I hate to bash on your team like that, but the free ticket for the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, it's the luck, man. It's the luck.
It literally is the luck of the Irish. If Notre Dame gets in, it is truly the luck of the Irish.
Oh yeah, they need two teams to lose this week. 2 teams in top 5 to lose this week. Which it very well could happen. Yeah.
All right, let's get into a game that actually, there's a playoff team in it. A Big Ten championship. You would have told me 3 months ago, not just both these teams, that Michigan would be playing for a Big Ten championship game. I would have taken that bet because there's not a snowball's chance I would have picked Michigan at the beginning of the year to be playing in this game. I'm not sure how you all feel, but I'm like, no way.
Well, looking at this game and looking at Michigan itself, Michigan's defense, especially their pass rushers, unbelievable. Aiden Hutchinson and Ajabo are crazy good.
Aiden Hutchinson's good?
Yeah, a little bit. Somewhat good. But I just think Iowa's gonna have offensively is gonna have some problems, and I think it's gonna be a defensive. It's gonna be to me. I don't think it's gonna be as high scoring, but I think Michigan will win. But it would be fun to see Iowa win, just because it would throw a little bit of chaos in there.
Spring chaos.
So it's what I want to see. I want to see chaos.
Yeah.
It would make it fun. Let's see what the committee does when if Iowa wins, Houston wins, Bama loses. What are they going to do?
They can't handle that.
I don't care. I want to see them try to handle it.
Do you? Because they'll find a way to throw Ohio State back into the top 4.
Oh yeah, that's what they'll do. They'll most likely.
That's what will happen for sure.
Yeah. No, Bama will just drop to 4 and they'll be in it. That's what they'll do. They'll just let Bama drop down.
So Bama loses, and then immediately has another rematch with Georgia, then immediately wins again because that's what Bama does.
Yeah.
Right? Could you imagine? Oh my god!
Honestly, throw LSU in there. Give Coach O one more game.
Yeah,
I think he's already down. He's already flown down. I think he's down in Florida or something, hanging with some cheerleaders or whatever.
He's already cleared his ankles.
He's down in Clearwater at Hooters, dude.
Jerred, do you have any thoughts on this? I mean, I'm going Michigan. I hate to admit it, but I love Michigan's defense, and I never thought Jimmy H would ever win a conference championship at Michigan, but here we are, man. This is
I agree with Johnny. I hope we get to see some chaos. I don't know if it's going to happen with this game, but it would be extremely exciting. Both teams have had a pretty good defense this year. So I think it's probably going to come down to which offense can control the clock more. And I think that's going to be Michigan here. They really proved their running game last week against Ohio State. I think Ohio State they're a top 20 run defense and average, I think 109 yards allowed, and Michigan ran for 297 yards against Ohio State. So pretty incredible. I'm not saying Hassan Haskins is going to rush for 5 more touchdowns against Iowa, but I think Michigan's going to be able to control the clock, control the game, and then they'll end up winning.
Honestly, I hope Iowa wins also. I'm not even sure why I'm pretending to hide it, but I hope Iowa wins. Just great chaos.
Oh, man, yeah.
Cincinnati can win and find a way in the playoff because I'm G5 all the way, but fuck it. Let's just, anything can happen.
See it.
Screw it. Find a way to get Ole Miss in there. Get Matt Corral in there. Honestly, put Clemson in there. We need Clemson in there.
No.
I think San Diego State's going to make the jump.
Listen, Brady Hoax, man. Michigan coach. Might as well throw him in there.
Yeah.
Brady Hoax. Wow.
All right, let's get in. The game we've been literally talking about. How often, Jerred? How long have we been talking about this potential matchup? You know what game I'm talking about.
I'm assuming it's since our first podcast, so week 2.
Okay, Big Bad Bama versus the Dawgs. Man, my one friend from Alabama said Alabama by 30.
The same as the Florida fan.
No, very different. The Florida fan still thinks he's very shocked that Dan Mullen got fired.
Me too.
Also, the same guy that says Kara Aleem is the top cornerback in this draft. That top corner. I'm gonna go out on that 1, 2, 3, 4. He's watching, which he's not because he doesn't care, but he's number 4. But topic for another day. That's the draft show coming soon to All About the Birds. Right, John?
Very soon. But no, you look at this matchup, and Bama has struggled this year. They haven't been playing like the Bama of old. They do have some great players. They do that. They have great players every year. But Georgia is just on another level. Their defense is unbelievable. Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean. And
there it is. I was waiting for the Jordan Davis.
I had to throw Jordan Davis. I like the guy. Come on. Wyatt. They got so many good players. And, you look at the offensive side of the ball, and no matter what quarterback they're putting in, they're still able to run the ball. They're able to, move people off the line of scrimmage, and they're able to, what I want to see. I'm so happy. Like last week, you saw, warming up, and you're seeing a little bit George Pickens. How nice of it to see him back on the field, because he's such a special talent at receiver, and I just think that Georgia's just so much. I think Georgia has more talent than Alabama, proven talent, and I think that's what's going to get them over the hump this game.
Yeah, I love Georgia's defense, man. I remember a couple of weeks ago they were in the argument that they were the best college football defense of all time, comparing like points per game to that. I think it was the 2011 or 2012 Alabama team. One or the other. They all blend in the same at this point. But everyone keeps saying this Georgia defense is the best college defense of all time. We're not watching a college defense. We're watching an NFL defense. And I won't be surprised when all 11 guys are playing on Sunday. And again, I'll give it to you, John. Jordan Davis, man, is the leader of this defense. And I always say the Heisman Trophy always goes to the quarterback of the best team, but the quarterback of the best team is not going to win the Heisman. Go to the best player on the best team, man, and that's always what the top player of the year award is. You can make the argument that Jordan Davis should be getting that call that he's a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, because he's turned that defense into an NFL defense. I'll say it till I die. This Georgia defense we're watching is an NFL defense.
I will say that, we'll give you that. I'll say that. But I wouldn't say, I know Bama's 2011 defense. I know Bama's team. You got to look at the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. You got to look at that. William Joseph and Vince Wilfork and Jonathan Vilma, DJ Williams, Philip Buchanan, Ed Reed, Mike Rumpf, Antrell Roll.
Are you clearly reading it off a screen at the moment?
I looked it up because I knew the 2001 defense was so good that I had to just pull it up. So I had to pull it up just because they were just so good.
Listen, I'll root for the Miami Hurricanes, but Manny Diaz is still the coach. So
go saying I'm rooting. Back then they were special. Right now they're just horseshit. Just saying.
Yeah, who you got in the Big Bad Bama or the Dawgs?
I'm going Georgia. Both teams have been fantastic statistically all year, but like you guys have already pointed out, especially that Georgia defense, they just got way more talent than just about everybody this year, and I think talent's going to prevail. So I got Georgia winning this game, and I was also kind of thinking this game will probably hit the under. It's at 49.5. Both teams defensively have been pretty tough, and if Georgia needs to, if they need to, they'll be able to hit Alabama's weak spot, which in my opinion has been their secondary this year. At least it was when they lost to Texas A&M. So I got Georgia.
All right, I have a hypothetical question for you. So I'm looking at the rankings right now. I say Georgia at 1, Michigan 2, Cincinnati 3, Alabama 4. Obviously, Bama loses, they're out. Unless the playoff committee really wants to create some controversy and move them up, because don't get me wrong, that's something shit they would do. Obviously, if they lose, I think, again, not speaking for you guys, they're out. Oklahoma State or Notre Dame moves in. Sorry, Jerred, I don't want to get your hopes up. Hypothetically, I don't think it's going to happen. Alabama wins decently close game. Are we going to move Oklahoma State in, or are we just going to rearrange top 4 like it is? Obviously, Michigan and Cincinnati win, which I expect to happen. But let's say Bama wins a close game. We moving Georgia all the way out, or are we rearranging that top 4 that doesn't involve a Georgia-Alabama repeat in the semifinals?
If Alabama beats Georgia, I think it'll be Bama Georgia 1-2.
Yeah, I can see that. Or possibly Bama 1, Michigan stays at 2, and Georgia to 3, all depending on what they want to do. But I think they're going to make it in a way that they're not playing each other for the first in the playoff for that next game. That's just my opinion on that.
Yeah,
It doesn't
I mean
really
2 or
matter.
3. It's not that big of a difference.
It's not like they have home field advantage in the football in the playoffs. I'm not even sure what the bowl game or what the games are this year, but it seems crazy that Bama would, if they win, to jump all the way to 1. In Georgia, I mean, to drop to 2. And to have Michigan and Cincinnati just drop because Bama wins. But I can't see Bama moving up to 2 and Georgia moving down to 3 just to have a repeat.
Yeah.
In a few weeks.
Right.
I know that the playoff committee doesn't care about, money and who plays who, but they care about who plays who. I'm no expert, but I have a brain. Not big.
Well, and just for the sake of the authenticity of it, it would just be silly to have them play back to back like that.
Yeah, I just don't think that makes much sense at all to do that, at least. And the other thing is, if Georgia loses, there's no way they're not going to be in the playoff for what they did all year long. One game losing close, that is not going to drop you out at all. Now, all depending on what Cincinnati does, it's going to get interesting, because if Oklahoma State, blows out Baylor, or there's going to be a lot, because if all these teams win, if Michigan wins handily, if Bama wins close game, and then Cincinnati wins, a close game, but Oklahoma State blows them out, wouldn't it be surprising to see Oklahoma State jump up and secure that number 4 spot? Because I could see that happening.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to drop a team even after they win. But in this instance, because especially if you think about the 2 games that both these teams are in, their respective conference championship games. Obviously, if Oklahoma State does have a blowout victory in the Big 12 championship, they're going to get more of a nod than Cincinnati would, especially if they have a tight one with Houston.
Here's another hypothetical question. I'm looking at the rankings, and the questions just keep popping in my head.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, let's say Bama loses very close, 3 points, 1 point, whatever the hell it is. Michigan. Obviously, we'll say Cincinnati wins. Cincinnati does what we think they're going to do. But Michigan just doesn't show up. Jim Harbaugh does what Jim Harbaugh does. Iowa smacks Michigan. Obviously, Michigan's out. But Bama also loses. But Bama stay in the top 4, though. A 2-loss Alabama. So it'll be the first time a 2-loss team makes the playoffs. But you look at, obviously, Oklahoma State, I think, could possibly jump. But if you're looking at the top 4 teams in the country, are you going to take an Alabama team, or are you going to take an Oklahoma State team? Because that's what it comes down to. Who are the 4 best teams in college football right now?
Well, I think if that happens, you're going to see Georgia, you're going to see Cincinnati, I think Notre Dame, and Oklahoma State. I think they're going to drop those teams out. And
Jerred is so excited right now. I can see it in his face.
I'm just saying that's what I could see.
Could you imagine Marcus Freeman winning a national championship game as the interim head coach? Man, Brian Kelly must be pissed.
Because normally Notre Dame being an independent, this is kind of a weakness for them, being idle during conference week, right? Especially in the position they're at now, where a big win in a conference championship game could catapult them into the playoffs. But it might end up playing in their favor too, because they're not at risk to lose right now, right? So it's kind of a crappy thing to advance because the teams lose, but that's the world we live in now with this 14 playoff. So it could end up being an advantage for them, but it's also a disadvantage at the same time because they're not playing at all. So
Clemson's right there, man. They're only at 22. They very easily can jump from 22 to 4. Easily. Without playing this week, they easily can jump from 22 to 4. Very.
Yeah.
We don't want to see that.
No one wants to see. I remember earlier in the year saying Clemson wasn't going to win the ACC, and my boy Johnny Mike Devlin said, "You're crazy. A college football player without Clemson is just not an thing." He's not watching, but screw you, Mike.
The ACC is wild.
Yeah, ACC is real wild.
Hey, maybe the ACC champion makes a jump. What's the highest? 17? Yeah. Number 17.
15, 16.
Making that jump.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, no, got a chance. All right. Well, honestly, we can go through about 500 options of what's going to happen. We won't know what's going to happen until Sunday. But one thing that I'm curious, because I think this is honestly a little bit more clear than the college football playoff, and it's crazy to think about it because I'm also very lost on this one. I should make a graphic, whatever. Who's going to win the Heisman?
Oh, man.
Yeah, Jerred, first of all, Jerred, you knew I was going to bring this up. I bring it up
I
every
know.
Johnny, you should just have been prepared anyway. But why is your answer CJ Stroud when it should be Matt Corral? Continue. I think it should be Matt Corral. I love him. Go Lane Kiffin, but he's been the best player in college football this year. Just has been a really off year for the Heisman, in my opinion. If they were to just skip the Heisman, I wouldn't complain, but, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Super off year because there's no one that's like blowing it out of the water. That's the thing. Yeah, you've had some players have a stretch of pretty good games, but then you've had people fall off, and a lot of people were pointing to,
after the first week, give him the award. Just give it to him.
Some people are kind of thinking he may be the odds-on favorite right now.
They must be doing a lot of drugs.
Well, for me, I would love to see Aiden Hutchinson win it, but again, defensive player is not going to win the Heisman.
I love that.
I'm just saying that's something that I would select.
I thought he got Thibodeau all preseason because of how good of a player he is, but obviously the injuries hurt him. But if he were at full health, him and those Eagles green, man, come on.
I know. I would just one of those guys actually being able to rush the passer and sack him and not, well, that's another subject with another player. So. Another show. But I honestly, I could see Bryce Young. I could see Matt Corral. I could see any of the quarterbacks, CJ Stroud, any of these guys winning it. If I'm going to make a guess, I'm going to go with Bryce Young. That's just my guess. I'm not saying he's the most deserving, but the most deserving to me is Aiden Hutchinson. But again, he's not going to win it. But my best guess on who's going to win it is Young. That's my guess.
Yeah. So throughout the season,
Vegas guy. What does Vegas got?
Yeah,
I know you well enough. I know you haven't pulled it up right now.
Well, this is an interesting find, right? So I pull up VegasInsider.com and I look at the odds, right? And I don't know when this shifted because I actually haven't looked for a couple weeks because we haven't talked about this for I think 3 weeks now. But all year everybody's odds have been plus whatever, right? But Bryce Young, he's minus 200 now to win the Heisman. So he's kind of running away as the favorite right now with that. Next being CJ Stroud at plus 450, and then third is actually Aiden Hutchinson, but he's clear up at plus 1600. So there's a pretty wide gap between.
Johnny's making the bets right now for Aiden Hutchinson. I can see it in his face.
Yeah.
I will.
Shoot, if Michigan makes it to the championship game, I don't think that's too far of a stretch.
Wait, the Heisman should be awarded before the championship game, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying if they make it if they get into the championship game.
Hey, I'm a big game this week because I know it's part of the decision making. A big game by him. Hey, 3 or 4 sacks. Throw his name in there.
Yeah, he's catching a lot of wind too. He's catching a lot of wind lately. He's getting popular, and it's really all about who's the most popular the last month of the season, really. So,
unless you're Keith Morehouse, who already told us who he's voting for, and he's voting for Matt Corral. So, unless you are somebody that just make up their minds already, but
I do think Will Anderson should get some play. I just don't think 25 and a half tackles for loss and 13 sacks.
mm-hmm.
That's just crazy. He's playing out of his mind. And, he's someone that I feel gets lost a little bit in the pass rusher conversation because of, Thibodeau and because of Hutchinson. I think he gets a little bit lost, but he's playing very well. And he's on, his pressure percentage is unbelievable in what he's doing this year.
Yeah, he's actually number 8 on this list I'm looking at.
You guys remember, the Heisman always, historically, the last, I say 10 years, it's always gone to, the best player on the best team. Arguably, going into playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I really can't remember that happening was Lamar Jackson with Louisville. And that seemed just to be, an off year for the Heisman also. But in Lamar then goes out to the NFL. But, the best player on the best team is Jordan Davis, and he's not getting that attention.
Yeah.
But then, you go, okay, I'll just go to the best quarterback who's playing. Then you have a mix of, honestly, not just Matt Corral, Bryce Young, and C.J. Stroud. You can throw Kenny Pickett in there.
Mm-hmm.
You can throw Desmond Ridder in there. You can throw a bunch of other quarterbacks. It's not like it's this terrible quarterback class. There just isn't that clear-cut favorite. Even last year, you knew Devontae Smith was going to win it on Heisman Trophy night. You knew Joe Burrow was going to win. You knew Kyler Murray. You knew Baker was going to win. If they were to announce the finalists tonight, I would go, maybe him, maybe this one. We'll see.
Right. Yeah.
This is a big time off year in terms of for Heisman. You have no one blowing it out of the water. You have nobody running away with it. Kenneth Walker was playing so well at such a high level, and then he got hurt. Hurt his ankle, and then just kind of fell off. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's something that it's an off year, but it's also kind of exciting because even though I love seeing this top player win the Heisman, you knew who was going to win it. It's also kind of exciting come that night that it's who's going to win it? It actually creates that little bit more excitement as a fan, especially since I have no horses in this race. I can care less who honestly wins it because it's an individual award. But as a fan, it's creating a lot of excitement of who's going to possibly win this award. And obviously, I can truly care less who's going to win it because who gives a shit about the Heisman at this point, especially this year. But it's exciting to see, you don't know who's going to win it.
There's so many different people that could win it.
Honestly, give it to Sean Clifford. All honorable mention Big Ten.
No. Goodbye. Maybe he'll transfer and play for Marshall.
No. Listen, Grant Wells. He was hurt this week.
I don't think
he almost made it to the conference championship game.
I don't think that would have mattered.
Almost is not at all.
Yeah.
Listen, Grant Wells got hurt, and our backup is as good as I was in a conference in a do or die game.
Here, I'll give you this. I'll end my talk, and especially talk about Penn State. I'm going to give you a prediction on the bowl game that they're going to go to. It's going to surprise you. It's going to surprise you a lot because they're 7-5. 7-5 teams usually don't go to these bowl games. I'm going to go the Outback Bowl.
Again,
they get picked to go to the Outback Bowl, which is crazy because there's a team like Wisconsin and Iowa if they lose and stuff like that. I'm going to go with the Outback Bowl. I know a lot of people are mocking Music City or the Las Vegas.
Who are they playing is the big question. That's what matters. It doesn't matter what bowl game they're going to. It matters who they're playing.
That I don't know. I'm not going to give you that.
Well, good are you?
I'm not going to give you that. Come on.
Hey, how about this? Texas A&M.
Okay, we can work with that. They can get blown out by by A&M.
Or they could win. You never know.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Like we were supposed to beat Iowa or Illinois, whatever it was. Both of them, honestly. All right, listen, we've gone a little bit over actually what we're usually supposed to. Hopefully, Mr. Christian Williams won't get mad at me, but he usually does. Final thoughts. Obviously, Johnny, you just gave us your final thoughts on State going to the Outback Bowl. We'll see you in the Gasparilla Bowl. Jerred, what do you got?
Final thoughts. Conference games are going to be exciting. Obviously, some really big games are going to determine the playoffs. So keep an eye out for that. There's 2 big games, 2 conference games this Friday, Pac-12, and one of the other ones are playing this Friday. So got some early football again this week, just like we're used to throughout the regular season. But big games on Saturday. So keep an eye out for it. Watch out for coaching changes. We'll see who wins the Heisman.
Yeah, what you guys said. Except Penn State going to the Outback Bowl. That's just blasphemy.
Or they could play Tennessee and they could win. So, hey.
Okay, that's Tennessee. That's like you're playing the armpit of the SEC, who'd probably be the armpit of the ACC, for being totally honest. You see how you don't deny it?
Who's Marshall going to play?
Oh, see, there's been rumors. There's 2 bowls. We're either in the Boca Raton Bowl or the New Orleans Bowl. And honestly, we're in the New Orleans Bowl. My ass is going to book a ticket there. And I'm going.
But who are they playing?
Oh, that's a great question. What other shit G5 school kind of is in that ballpark?
They'll play like Kent State or something.
They'll play a Sun Belt team. Because, that's exactly what Marshall wants to do, is play a Sun Belt team 2 years before we're about to join the Sun Belt. I'm calling it. We're going to play Coastal Carolina in the New Orleans Bowl. It's already been reported we're not playing in the Bahamas Bowl because everyone was worried that we're going to have to go there. No one wanted to go to the Bahamas Bowl. We're not going to the Bahamas Bowl, so I'm going to guess the New Orleans Bowl against Coastal Carolina. Because, damn it, we're going to play a Sun Belt team right before we're about to join the stupid Sun Belt, the Fun Belt.
It's a good way to end it.
Great way. Well, it has been another great episode. Make sure you tune into everyone here at the Cut FFB. We have obviously the College Football Cut every Thursday night with Jerred and I. We have the DFS Dives Thursday nights with that crew. Monday, Christian and Randall have their whatever show that is. Sorry. What else we got? Wednesdays, we have what? The Coach Approach? It's Wednesdays, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Wednesdays, Coach Approach.
Yep.
Let's see. Next week, we have a great episode planned. We are going to get a good group of people together, and we're going to go through every single bowl, all 500 of them, and pick the winners.
They are adding one. Did you hear they're adding one to fit the bowl eligible teams in?
So Akron can play. Good for Akron.
I think it's called the Mystery Meat Bowl.
I think it's like Hawaii. No, I think Hawaii's playing in it.
The Mystery Meat Bowl.
Mystery meat.
Listen, there's a bowl game for everything. Again, Marshall played in the Bad Boys Mowers Gasparilla Bowl for 2 straight years. So there's no rules with bowl games anymore.
Nope,
not at all.
No rules. All right. We'll be back next week for another great episode of College Football Cut. Johnny, as always, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You can check Johnny out on All About the Birds every Wednesday for the weekly report. If you're an Eagles fan, make sure you check out Johnny. He's very, very knowledgeable, except when he's wrong about the Eagles. Listen, there's other people that we know who are very much more knowledgeable than you. If you ask them, Jerred knows as well too. Yeah, Johnny, just check Johnny out, All About the Birds. Check out All About the Birds. Great site. Great people to work for. But for Jerred Terrell and Johnny I'm Adam Mack. We will see you all next week for another great episode of the College Football Cut.